Another round of dangerous storms is hitting California, with more flash floods and evacuations. We'll have the latest.
Also coming up, how working at home has changed the way many of us look at our jobs.
So every day being down in Punta Mita, I gain 2 to 3 hours of productivity that I can pass on to my client.
Happy International Pie Day! I'm Peyton Bell, live in Old Town Orange outside of the Pie Hole. Stay tuned for more.
From Dodge College of Film and
Good afternoon and welcome to this week's edition of Chapman News. I'm Mason Lee.
And I'm Luis Avila. Today we begin with the presidential visit. President Biden is in Los Angeles today, where he is talking about his efforts to reduce gun violence. Earlier today, he issued an executive order to increase the number of gun background checks and promote a better and safer firearms storage. The president is speaking in Monterey Park, where a gunman killed 11 people and shot 20 others in a dance hall at a Chinese New Year celebration in January. Biden will also meet with the families of the victims and first responders from that day.
It's another day of heavy rain here in California.
And flooding remains a concern. Los Angeles first responders yesterday rescued 7 people trapped by rushing waters in Duarte. Our weather anchor Brady Grustes is here to tell us about the record-setting rainfall. Hi, Brady.
Hi, Mason and Luis. Let's talk about the flooding. The recent heavy rain in California has caused widespread flooding, evacuations, and major damage to homes. The California Water Watch website reports 25.15 inches of rain has been collected over the last 6 months, which is almost 1.5 times the average precipitation California receives in any year. Monterey and Santa Barbara counties were especially hard hit. They received 200% more rain this year. As a result, major flooding in Monterey County caused the levee in Pajaro, California to fail. Jesus Padilla and his family are some of many who are forced to evacuate Pajaro.
We already packed everything we're going to take and we're ready to go. We wanted to go to a hotel, but at the moment we don't even have work, so it's hard to decide what to do.
As Pajaro tries to recover from the levee breach, another storm is hitting California this week, which is causing more floods and cutting off cities like Monterey from its neighbors. Tune in later on in the newscast where I'll have your weekly weather forecast.
Brady, in other news, flooding wasn't the only thing threatening Northern California last week. Silicon Valley Bank, a regional bank used primarily by startups and tech companies, collapsed after depositors withdrew over $40 billion. After many of the bank's investments in government-sponsored debt securities lost value due to increased interest rates, the withdrawals destroyed the bank's finances. President Biden sought to assure people that the banking system is safe.
Americans can have confidence that the banking system is safe. Your deposits will be there when you need them. Small businesses across the country, the deposit accounts at these banks can breathe easier knowing they'll be able to pay their workers and pay their bills.
The Wall Street Journal reports that the Securities Exchange Committee and the Justice Department are conducting an investigation into the activities of the bank's financial officers and key investors prior to the collapse. No criminal charges have been filed at this time. New York Representative George Santos has come under scrutiny for making up a number of falsehoods about his background, as well as questions about the financing of his 2022 congressional campaign. He is currently under investigation by the House Ethics Committee.
Here at home in California, a new bill has been introduced by a state lawmaker in the wake of the Santos controversy. Chapman News reporter Jui Doshi has more.
Thanks, Luis and Mason. As controversy continues to consume New York Congressman George Santos at the nation's capital, Democratic State Senator Josh Newman, who represents parts of LA, San Bernardino, and Orange counties, has filed the Dupe Act, a solution he hopes will try and prevent any elected official in California from duping voters. Thank you for joining us, Senator Newman. So to start, as an elected official yourself, what was your reaction when you heard about the scandal that has followed Santos?
I think I had that same, reflex that everybody else did, which is like, oh my God, he can't possibly get away with that, can he, right? And I remember, I think it was the New York Times, the first article I saw that said something effective like, newly elected representative apparently, not who he says he is, or something to that effect. And, it's kind of an intriguing headline because it gets to this kind of larger conversation that I think we always have about, like, are people accurately representing themselves? And it turned out it was so extreme. And so then you're waiting for the judgment. You're waiting for, the redress, right?
Could you explain to us how this bill would work?
The idea is that there should be a step in the filing process for office where, if a person is running to represent people, they should do what we all have to do when we apply for a job or for a loan. You'd submit a pretty simple application or a resume, if you will, of kind of who you are and what your credentials are, right? So that's your work history, your education, and prior military service, if you had any. You'd submit it, and then you would attest to the fact that is truthful, accurate, and truthful. And if that were found to be false, if you'd made false statements as to who you are or what your qualifications are, you'd be subject to disqualification and possibly penalties under the law.
Now, some people have concerns about the constitutionality of the bill. What do you say to that?
And we live in a wonderful place. The First Amendment is one of, I think, the most precious gifts we have as Americans. The ability to do or say anything we want within reason. And so political speech is kind of unregulated. And, it's been found in the courts. You're like, you have the right to lie, right? But there should be some safeguard, I think, for voters that if it's discovered, a la George Santos or others, that somebody is not who they said they were, we shouldn't be stuck with them.
Where do you draw a line in this bill between politicians embellishing while campaigning versus outright extravagant lies?
So I guess the goal here isn't to regulate anybody's speech or to control, what they say or how they say it. The goal here really is to deter, really unscrupulous people from, misrepresenting themselves in ways that could lead voters to elect them under false pretenses. And so there will always be room, as far as I'm concerned, for, political speech. One person's embellishment is another person's anecdote. But there's a baseline level of truth, of integrity that I think we should be able to count on.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Senator Newman.
Well, Joey, thank you for having me. Glad to do it again anytime.
I'm Juhi Doshi reporting for Chapman News. Back to you.
The Biden administration has approved the Willow project, which allows for the creation of 3 new drilling sites in Alaska's petroleum-rich North Slope. The drill sites will include up to 199 total wells. 2 other drill sites that were also proposed for the project were denied. Environmentalists have condemned the new project approval, claiming that it goes against President Biden's campaign promise to prevent any new oil drilling on federal lands.
8 people are dead after 2 small fishing boats capsized off the coast of San Diego. Authorities say the boats were smuggling migrants to the U.S. and may have been part of a human trafficking ring. There are still several people missing. Heavy fog made rescue efforts difficult. None of the victims was wearing a life jacket. Additionally, after years of complaints from nearby residents, change is coming to the AllAmerican asphalt plant in Irvine. The city of Irvine recently announced plans to buy the plant and convert it into a nature preserve. Neighbors who live about 1 mile from the plant have complained about foul odors and potential health hazards. The plant is located on Jeffrey Road. Irvine Mayor Farah Khan says, quote, "As a city, we have and will continue to monitor, evaluate, and implement programs to improve residents' quality of life and public health. And the purchase and revitalization of AllAmerican asphalt is a major milestone in continuing this mission." The plant has been in Irvine since the early 1990s and can produce up to roughly 120,000 tons of asphalt every month.
Cal State Long Beach students have collected more than 9,000 signatures on a petition asking the university to let students walk in their May graduation ceremony at Angel Stadium. During the pandemic, the university did away with the commencement traditions of having students walk across the stage while their names were called. Unlike most other CSU campuses, Long Beach has not brought it back. Students say walking across the stage is an important recognition of the work they did to earn their degrees. 2 years ago this month, COVID-19 shut down the nation and much of the world. Here at Chapman and other universities across the country, students were sent home and had to take classes online. At first, as you will recall, everyone was on Zoom. Chapman eventually transitioned to hybrid instruction, and then after many months, back to in-person classes. Students had to provide proof of vaccination or take weekly COVID tests. The experts say the true impacts of the pandemic on learning and mental health will not be known for some time. Another result of the pandemic, many Americans are no longer going into the office.
They are instead working from home.
It's a big lifestyle change. Our Caroline Applegate has more on what working remote looks like for people working internationally.
Before the pandemic, work and commuting was a staple in American culture. But from 2019 to 2021, 18.6 million people moved to remote working, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Now it seems a new American dream has been created, focused on work-life balance and personal choice for an ideal work environment. A survey by the remote job searching website FlexJobs found over half of the participants say they would leave their jobs if remote work was not offered. I spoke to Andrew Kubicek, a tech consultant, who currently works remotely in Punta Mita, Mexico, a luxury vacation destination. He has also been able to work in multiple European countries and even in Egypt. He has found a perfect work-life balance where he can golf and surf when he is not in meetings or working on big projects for clients.
I'm an avid golfer, so I enjoy golfing. And typically the way my work schedule looks is I'll wake up early in the morning. I have our call with our team in India. Then I'll work throughout the day. I'll wrap up work around 5 or 6 p.m. local time. And then I'll go play 9 holes of golf, come back, have dinner, and maybe put in a couple hours in the evening as our team in India is getting back online for their day the next morning.
However, Andrew notes some coworkers do take advantage of working outside the office.
I've seen both sides of remote work, where when I first joined the project and we went remote, there was another analyst on our team who I would always see his teams and be like, man, this guy is offline all the time. Like, there's no way he's putting in work. And I was putting in a tremendous amount of hours.
But his favorite part about working remote is the connections he's made with business vacationers visiting Punta Mita.
US, Mexico, international. It's been
Santa Ana's first ever female mayor is talking about a death threat she received during her first few weeks in office. Mayor Valerie Amezca says a threat was made in a phone call to the city manager's office in early January, but city officials waited over 24 hours to tell her about it. She says while the threat does make her more apprehensive in her day-to-day life, it will not stop her from serving her community.
It hasn't changed how I'm going to serve. If anything, it makes me want to serve even harder, because how dare them, number one, threaten me, number two, try to stop the good work that we're doing.
After receiving the threat, the mayor hired private security guards who accompanied her to and from her home, city hall, and community events for a period of about 2 weeks. The Santa Ana City Council voted to reimburse the mayor for the $1,000 she spent to hire the security firm.
Some scary moments near the Chapman campus as a car drove into the historic fountain in the middle of Park Plaza in Orange Circle. The City of Orange Police Department says the driver was in the possession of a handgun and a high-capacity magazine. The collision happened just after 5 a.m. yesterday. Police say the car was driving at a high speed down Chapman Avenue, as can be seen in the video, before crashing into the fountain. Officers identified the driver as Raymond Salazar Felix. He was taken into custody at the scene and is currently being treated at a local hospital. Repair work has started to fix the fountain.
In other news, a recent Chapman alum is being remembered here on campus. Kristen Kumagawa died last week after a medical emergency. She had battled lupus and a chronic fatigue for many years. Kristen graduated in December with a Bachelor of Arts degree in Communication Studies and was pursuing a master's degree in Health and Strategic Communications at Chapman. Kristen was incredibly involved across campus, from Greek life to her work as social media manager for the Asian American Disabilities Initiative. A strong advocate for disability rights, Kristen was working with Dodge College to make sure film work on sets was more accessible. She also spoke frequently and appeared on several podcasts to raise awareness for people with disabilities. We spoke with one of her friends, Rachel Authon, about how Kristen should be remembered.
Kristen was a strong person. That's always what I thought of when I thought of her. She was strong and just so full of life and kindness to give to everyone that she met. Whatever she was a part of, she was the best part of it. She really was going to make a difference. She was going to really change how things were done. And I truly believe that. And I hope to be able to carry that on for her.
Kristen Kumagawa's memorial will be held this Thursday, March 16th at 3:30 p.m. at Chapman University in the Wallace All Faiths Chapel of the Fish Interfaith Center.
I'm Brady Grustis, and I'll be back with more updates on the California floods and today's weather report after the break.
The black truck? Hey, Christina from accounting.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, I used to date a girl named Christina.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then she dumped me for my best friend. You want to see some photos of them that I took?
I don't.
I thought we talked about this, buddy.
Buzz and overshared again?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna call a car.
That's a smart idea.
So, yeah, I know, that's why I did it.
Hey, you're gonna get back to the top of the mountain.
Does that mean I'm gonna get back with Christina?
No.
Oh.
No.
What do we do? You may not be able to plan ahead for a ghost encounter.
Under the dining table now!
But you can plan ahead for natural disasters. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts.
Maybe it's the apocalypse.
Know your evacuation routes and decide on a safe emergency meeting location.
Here? I know. Would have picked Orlando.
Protecting your family is the best plan you can make. So pass the Proton Pack to the next generation and visit ready.gov/plan to get started.
Now, I noticed the clouds were a little dark as I walked into the studio today.
I noticed that as well. Brady Grustis is here to tell us more about the forecast.
Thank you, Mason and Luis. Yes, as I mentioned before, more storms for California. That's the top story today. We've got an atmospheric river above California, so we'll have flash flood warnings in northern and central California. And us down here in orange right here, we'll also get some rainfall, although it should be a little less than northernmost parts of the state. As you can see here, we've got pictures of the Pajaro River down in Monterey Bay, where a bunch of flooding has taken place due to a broken levee. Right now here in orange, it's 61 degrees and a little bit rainy outside, so be sure to grab a coat or an umbrella on your way to work or school. Moving on to our national forecast, we've got 57 degrees in San Francisco, where a lot of this rain is going to be taking place. Surprisingly, no rain up in Seattle, but it's a chilly 47 degrees. A little warmer down in Las Vegas, 67. Moving on to Denver, 62 degrees. Cloudy should be there. We've got 65 degrees down in Austin and a frigid 32 and 33 degrees in Minneapolis and Chicago, respectively. Chicago, of course, dyeing their river green in honor of St. Patrick's Day, a great tradition there. We've got 50 degrees down in Atlanta and a really warm 80 degrees in Miami. Might as well be summer already down there. Moving on to the northeast, where a nor'easter storm is sweeping through New England. We've got 43 in our nation's capital, 37 in New York, and also expect roughly a foot of snow in New York City. Moving on to the Orange County forecast, you're going to see a lot of very similar temperatures here. 60 degrees and rainy. That's the forecast for today. We've got 60 in Westminster, 61 inland with Orange, Irvine, and Mission Viejo. We've also got 59 here in Newport Beach, 60 in Laguna Beach, and down in San Clemente, a little chillier at 58. Moving on to our 5-day Fenestra forecast. Today and tomorrow, we've got some rain, 61 and 62 degrees respectively. And as we get into Wednesday and Thursday, you may see here low temperatures of 50 degrees on each of those days. So it is going to get pretty chilly in the nighttime. Be sure to bundle up, get warm. Moving on to the weekend, the rain should be gone by then, but the clouds are going to stick around. Temperatures will rise a bit to 64 degrees on Friday, 66 on Saturday, but expect a little cloudy cover to remain. That's all for me at the weather desk. Back to you, Mason and Luis.
Thank you, Brady. Mason, did you see the Oscars this weekend?
Yes, I did, and there were some really exciting wins and performances this year. Here at Dodge College, our Danielle Burke-North talked with Dean Stephen Galloway about the big night. Here's some of their conversation.
Thanks for joining us today, Dean Galloway. About the Oscars, what were some of the highlights of the show?
The single greatest highlight was having Ke Huy
Kwan win, which was incredibly moving. But also he'd been here, he did a master class. He was such a humble, modest, authentic person. Everybody knew he would win. That was the easiest category to grasp. But when it happens, you'll still think, well, what if he doesn't? And I was so thrilled when he won. Really thrilled.
It was incredible to see a lot of diversity in nominations and winners this year. How has the hashtag Oscars White trend changed the Academy Awards over the past few years? What does it say about where the industry is going? What work still needs to be done in terms of diversity and representation?
Huge work still needs to be done. The An Oscars So White movement was just like a thunderclap in the industry. And suddenly, everybody's looking at the Academy and saying, what are they doing wrong? And they made massive moves. They really doubled the membership. They opened the doors to far more women, far more people of color. Is it enough? No. One of the problems is that the Academy is sort of at the bottom of the river. It waits for the movies to arrive that it will vote on. It waits for the people to do things. Then all it can do is reflect what the industry is making. But because so many powerful people are in the Academy, they had to take note too. And actually now if you go to the studios and the networks and you see the young people working there, they're extraordinarily diverse. But it's going to take 10 years before they reach positions of power. The Academy has said, okay, we can't wait that long. We'll bring in more people. And you saw that reflected in the wins.
Do you think it's time for any new categories? And if you could add a new one, what would you push for?
Well, there's been a lot of talk about having a casting category. And I'm very much in favor of that. The problem is defining who's in charge of the casting. Because this is a role where the director plays a huge part, the producer, sometimes the studio. But great casting directors are the ones who draw your eye to people who are unknown, who will really go out on a limb to recommend somebody. My vote would be for that. My anti-vote
that's a good one.
Would be for the foreign language category, international films it's called, because the way it is run makes no sense. They only take one movie per country, and that means that when you have a country like France, which makes many great movies every year, they're unfairly excluded, and I think that has to change.
That's a good answer. That's a great answer.
Thank you. Come back anytime.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Dean Galloway of Dodge College of Film and Media Arts. I'm Danielle Burke-North, reporting for Chapman News.
In other awards news, Kai Cenat won the Streamer of the Year at the 2023 Streamer Awards. This is the second year for the Streamer Awards. The event recognizes the most influential live streamers on platforms like Twitch and YouTube. These creators attract thousands of viewers each day by live streaming video games, chatting with their audiences, or hosting live events. Other big winners of the night include Tens, who won the Gamer of the Year award, and Ludwig, who won the Best Streamed Event award for his chess boxing event. Today is March 14th, 3/14, which has earned it the nickname Pi Day.
But Pi Day has a different meaning for different people. Peyton Bell joins us live from the Pie Hole Cafe in Old Town Orange to explain. Peyton?
Happy Pi Day, Luis and Mason. For math people, Pi Day is about the number that helps measure circles. But for people like me and others in Orange, Pi Day is about the delicious circular pastries. I spent some time with the Pie Hole staff to help them prepare for one of their craziest days of the year.
My expectations are chaos, lots of stress, and I'm probably going to be tired by the end.
Tired and stuffed with any of the varieties of pies offered here at the Pie Hole. I'm talking savory classics like chicken pot pie, followed by something sweet like Abuelita's chocolate, a bestseller here in Orange. It may sound like a fun tradition, but people take their pie seriously, making this one of the busiest days of the year, right behind Thanksgiving.
Last year, we had a line out the door. It was already closing time, and there were still people coming in.
Manager Kim Carrillo did her best to teach me the basics of decorating a pie. But I have to warn you, if you see a coconut cream pie with lousy piping, you may want to steer clear. Oh, I won't. Sorry, Luis and Mason. I was planning to bring this back to you in the studio, but I just couldn't help myself. Live in Orange for Chapman News, I'm Peyton Bell.
I'm Amani Wright. We're giving you all the madness this March and more on the best campus sports show coming up.
I'll be seeing you in all of our favorite places with laughter and warm embraces all day through.
Elmo loves you.
I love you too.
With free COVID-19 vaccines, sunnier days are ahead. Visit getVaccineAnswers.org.
I'll be seeing you.
Welcome back. Many people, in fact, some 100 million here in the US, use TikTok every day. The popular Chinese-owned social app is being called a security threat and is at risk of being banned. The White House has already ordered government employees to remove TikTok from any federally issued devices. Earlier this month, a U.S. House panel passed a bill giving President Biden the power to ban the app across the nation. Lawmakers note TikTok gives China the ability to track, collect, and store American users' data and information. Now, 12 U.S. senators, led by Virginia's Mark Warner, have unveiled a bipartisan bill known as the Restrict Act. In a statement, Warner says the goal of the legislation is to, quote, identify and mitigate foreign threats to information and communications technology products and services. For its part, TikTok has responded by saying a ban would be, quote, a ban on the export of American culture and values to the billion people who use our service worldwide.
When we see the case that's already made, when we see the amount of data that TikTok says they protect, and frankly, story after story where it's not protected, I will trust that the vast majority of us, regardless of party, will do the right thing. And I would never underestimate the ability of American technology to provide like-kind products with better protections.
Mason, have you filled out your bracket? It's time for March Madness. There are 68 teams in the tournament. That number will eventually be whittled down to the Elite Eight, then the Final Four, and finally the two teams who will play for the national championship on April 3rd. March Madness brackets are very popular. According to the American Gaming Organization, a record high number of bettors have filled out a bracket and participated in same-game parlays. The organization says 25% of American adults will place a bet on March Madness. 56.3 million American adults have filled out a bracket, and 31 million Americans will place a wager with a bookie or online.
March Madness is definitely heating up, Luis.
Here at Chapman News, we want to get you in on the action.
We have our sports reporter Amani Wright to help us dive into some of the madness. Amani?
Let the March Madness begin here at Chapman News. We want you to get on the madness with our new bracket challenge. Fill out a bracket with the teams you think will win it all and submit it to any of our Chapman News social media platforms via direct message. The winner will receive a shout out on our next broadcast. So Mason, Louise, let me toss it back to you guys. Who do you think will win the Chapman News bracket?
Well, if you ask me, I'd have to pick UCLA because I have a very good friend, Alvin, who goes there.
Look at that. I also have a very good friend who goes to UCLA, so I will definitely have to be rooting for UCLA.
We're in perfect sync.
Yeah. Well, Amani, let's have you join us on the desk to give us the rest of our weekly sports update.
They're rooting for UCLA. It's crazy. It's crazy to me. Let's get into it, though. Let's get into the Best Campus Shorts show. A little more info on March Madness, then we'll get into the good stuff. Teams were selected Sunday for the NCAA women's and men's basketball tournament. Many Southern California teams are competing. Starting on the men's side at the number 5 seed is San Diego State. At the number 14 seed is UC Santa Barbara. The University of South California is seeded 10th, and with the highest seed for SoCal teams is UCLA, sitting at number 2. On the women's side, the UCLA Bruins and the USC Trojans are the only Southern California teams competing. Games are slated to begin today, with the first 4 fighting for a chance to get into the first round of play. Baseball season is in full swing as the Chapman baseball team is edging closer towards a .500 record after a recent series win over Webster University. Sophomore pitcher Max Banks put on a show with 7 scoreless innings and 12 strikeouts. Josh Phillips and Drake Mueller scored 2 runs for the Panthers as they won 2 out of the 3 games played over the weekend. You can catch the Panthers in action on Friday in a conference matchup against Whittier College. If you don't know, now you know. The World Baseball Classic is back after the CBA lockout prevented the games last year. Teams are split into 4 pools and sent to various cities, including Phoenix, Arizona, Miami, Florida, Tokyo, Japan, and Taichung, Taiwan. The USA was placed in Pool C along with Great Britain, Mexico, Colombia, and Canada. The team currently has 1 win and 1 loss as they continue into pool play. Los Angeles baseball is well represented on Team USA with Mike Trout and Aaron Loop of the Angels, along with Mookie Betts and Will Smith of the Dodgers. The squad is looking to hopefully end their 6-year gold medal drought. And that's all for the best campus sports show this week. I'm Amani Wright.
I'm Jalea Gillums. Up next, Humans of OC. Meet an inspiring local business owner who has an amazing story of resiliency.
When I was your age, I was just like you, fascinated by stars. But now I get to search for life in the universe. And who knows, maybe life is looking for us too.
So we're like aliens to them?
Yeah. Does anyone want to be a scientist now?
I do.
Awesome. We need more girls in STEM.
Maybe we can find aliens.
Jalea Gillums has our latest story on Humans of Orange County.
When you walk through the doors of Ashley Nadine Bridal Shop located in Brea, California, you're welcomed by store owner Ashley's vibrant smile. As a guest, you're whisked away in all things bridal, as Trevino has perfected a sense of elegance yet comfort to provide ease in picking a gown for your special day.
You'd never guess that Trevino has survived great trauma in her life. She is a survivor of human trafficking. I'm Jalea Gillums, and this is Humans of Orange County.
Sorry, excuse us for the technical difficulties, folks.
I went over to a friend's house and she invited me out to a house party. So when we got into the party, she left me. And that is when I met my pimp. We were driving down this like windy road, and at the bottom of the road there was a park. And we went to the park, and that's the day that he slapped me across the face and told me to get out of the car. And so that was like the day that like everything changed for me.
Trevino says she lived a double life. She attended school during the day and continued stripping and being trafficked at night.
I mean, I've been in some like really, really dangerous situations. Like really, I mean, like, I'm like thankful to be alive.
At 19, Ashley found out she was pregnant and she made the decision to leave her lifestyle. Along with her bridal shop, Ashley speaks worldwide and holds conferences for other women in the lifestyle to get out too.
I help women a lot because there's so much involved in this day. Women empowerment is so different because it comes from within. It comes from knowing who you are and not caring what anybody says, what anybody thinks.
Ashley's main goal now is for all women to feel limitless.
Find out more at the website ashleynadinebridal.com. I'm Jalea Gillums, and this is Humans of Orange County.
Thank you, Jalea. Well, that's it for us this week. Be sure to check out our YouTube page at chapmannews.tv and make sure to follow us at Chapman News. I'm Luis Avila.
And I'm Mason Lee. Thank you for watching, and we will see you 2 weeks from now. Enjoy your spring break, Panthers.